I want to begin with breaking news, heartbreaking news.
Tonight, an urgent plea for help to find a missing couple.
They went missing in the Nevada desert.
72-year-old Ronnie and 69-year-old Beverly Barker have been found, but
Ronnie and Beverly Barker were found together inside their Kia about 2 miles away from their RV in Nevada. But sadly, Ronnie Barker did not survive.
now this was a long and terrifying process for Ronnie and Beverly's family.
Exactly, it's just a devastating situation for the family.
And we don't know any details of how the couple came to be, where search crews found them on a mountain, or Mrs. Barker's condition, or how her husband, Ronnie, passed.
We do know what their traveling route looked like. Family tells us that they started in Albany, Oregon. They were taking a West Coast RV trip. They left on March 26th, bound for Tucson, Arizona, but they didn't make it that far.
Their family tells us the couple's RV was found earlier today in the mud in a mountainous area west of Silver Peak, Nevada, about 30 minutes away from Coaldale, where their cell phone last pinged off a cell phone tower last Sunday.
So here's the deal. Ron and Beverly Barker were on an RV trip. From what I understand, they were headed from up north down towards like the Arizona area. We don't know exactly how or why they got off the main road. Somebody said that maybe their GPS had main highways turned off or something quirky like that happened. But basically, they just started kind of traveling up into the mountains. And these are some very, very remote mountains. Just west of Tonopah, Nevada, a little west of a place called Silver Peak. It's just kind of no man's land.
All right, guys, got something special for you today. It's the recovery video that you've all been requesting. The collaboration that everybody wants to see. Well, I want to see it. A lot of people in the comments want to see it. And it's between us and this gentleman right here, Mr. Mike Patey. Finally, dude, we're doing a video together.
It's about time.
And not just any old video, but we're doing a search and rescue video, which is pretty, wait till you hear the story. I don't know how much you know about it, but it's
very little. I was talking to the sheriff's department several days ago, offering the helicopter if they needed another bird down there, but I haven't got an update since.
Yeah, this one's kind of a sad. It's a bittersweet one for sure. So, right now we just flew down to Spanish Fork Airport, and now we're jumping in the Patey Pilatus because it's literally a pickup truck. We're loading it with tools, equipment, and then we're headed out to Tonopah, Nevada, and then from there about another hour west into kind of like the Death Valley Mountain range. All right, guys, so we just touched down here at the Tonopah Airport in Tonopah, Nevada, which is quite literally smack dab in the middle of nowhere. You got Vegas that way, you've got Sacramento that way, you got Salt Lake that way, Southern California's that way, and we're just right here. So we just flew over the site where the vehicles are abandoned. We did see the RV, found it. The Kia Soul was buried in the trees a little bit deeper, so we haven't found that yet. But we're unloading all of our tools, and we've got the trucks coming from Reno that are gonna meet us here in about 20 minutes or so. Super grateful for Mike Patey. And Mike, when did I text you? Yesterday?
Yesterday, I was in Florida, so.
I texted Mike yesterday. He's in Florida on a family vacation. He's like, I'll find the next flight home. I'm like, dude, like, don't come home yet. Like, come home when you're supposed to. So he flew home last night. We jumped in the plane this morning, and Mike lives for search and rescue though, so he's like, he wasn't gonna miss out on this. So this will be a little different one for you because the bodies have already been recovered. You know, the Uncle Ron who passed away, then they airlifted his wife up to Reno, but she can't get back home to Indiana without her RV that has all of her medical equipment in it, which is what we're going to get, which you just saw. So a little different. This is more like one of our recoveries, more vehicle type stuff. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be about like an hour and a half drive, I think, from here. Being optimistic, it's probably closer to 2, but we'll see. So I'm just waiting on the trucks. We'll load up and get out of here. Assuming that this was the route that they took, their GPS was just really lying to them. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been bamboozled by GPS through here before as well. We were in a semi truck that decided to take us through Death Valley National Park, which doesn't allow semi trucks. And by the time you pass the point of no return, you realize that fuel all these different things come into consideration. So you have to just decide, like, okay, well, maybe this is just a, you know, a little weird little detour. We'll just follow it through. So I don't know what GPS they were following. I don't know what route they were taking to get to where they're at now. They would have had to have been on roads like this for at least 2 hours, and they were not intentionally going off-roading. That was not the purpose of their trip. The trip was to like make it through Yosemite or something, right?
The roads that they were taking started getting tighter and tighter and tighter until finally the RV got stuck, and the RV was actually towing a little car dolly with a Kia Soul on it. Ron decided to unload the Kia so they could drive out back to cell service and get help, because the area where they were at was still probably 30-40 minutes away from the closest cell service area. In fact, that's how search and rescue kind of knew where to look for them, because their cell phone had pinged off a tower about 30 minutes, you know, nearby.
The deeper we're going right now, the further away we're going away from anything. Like, we're not getting closer to anything on this side of the road. We are about halfway to the site where the vehicles are at. Basically, we're just kind of climbing the mountain. Been coming in this way from Tonopah, making our way up these BLM roads, and I'm still not 100% sure which route they took to get in here. I would be very surprised if it was this route, because this is really rough and really dirty and really rocky. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna try to find out from the family exactly which way they came, but basically it just keeps going and going and going, and their GPS just did them real dirty. So we're in the vicinity of where the RV should be. We got some GPS coordinates that got us to right here. I think it's a little further off the road than we originally anticipated. We're looking for the RV first, and then next we'll go for the car. The car is a little bit more of a sensitive deal, because that's where Ron died, and the family has asked us to have a moment of silence and stuff over there before we touch it. So we're gonna see just how smashed in this RV is in here. I mean, you could tell GPS was just really messing with somebody in here, and you can see exactly how a big RV like that could easily get entangled. I believe we are in the general vicinity of where the RV ended up. These poor people out here with no cell service. Also, we're 8,000 feet, which is makes it hard to breathe, especially for Uncle Ron, the man who passed away, because he had a bunch of his lung removed from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. Just the ultimate worst case scenario, man. If you're them and you have no downloaded off-trail maps, and your GPS has brought you to this point so far, and you're cruising along, you get to this right here. What the hell do you do? I mean, is this the end of the road? Does the road continue to go? Ron, the owner, the driver, probably, oh, I mean, look, this is what he was gonna have to do. He was basically gonna have to make this hairpin turn. Wasn't gonna work. So, as you can see, it looks like it ripped the trailer hitch out of the back of the RV for the car dolly. Car dolly looks like it's still gonna probably work, possibly. At least get it out of here. The RV's got good tire on that side, shredded tire and rim on this side, and oh, it looks like it's only got one flat tire, which is awesome. Look at this. Can you imagine just following your GPS? And
some of those angles back there, they had to be feeling like they were going to tip over just driving on them. And I know you're driving it out. It's going to be fun. But yeah, getting to here and seeing it just switch back.
Ron had a choice to make. And at this point, he's probably super agitated. You know, you're super frustrated. You're this far off trail, your wife, everything. So he pulled it in here, unloaded the Kia, and
after getting the Kia off of the car dolly, they started going back the way they thought they came. Well, unfortunately, they made one wrong turn, which took them down kind of a steep ravine, at which point Ron went to go turn around and it got stuck. Now keep in mind, when they left the RV, they thought they were just getting into their car to drive back into town, so they didn't think about, you know, packing extra food, extra water, any of that stuff.
No, we've only got one blown tire so far. Come up here. We're gonna get this car dolly off. They were literally using like printed off MapQuest.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
We got a tire.
Now we give it a pull. Got the Yankum Brodozer rope, and just got to get up over this hump. Should pull it pretty easy. We got the one flat tire replaced, which is nice, which means we have 5 spares for the drive out, which we're probably gonna need because it's rough out of here. Man, I feel so bad for these people. Oh, all I'm seeing right now is the desperation that they felt. I'm feeling it for them. Yeah, it wasn't that stuck. I mean, if they had had a vehicle that could tug on it, they would have been in the same situation. But keep in mind, they were not prepared for this. Are we unhooked?
What's he trying to do? Turn around?
All right, camper is unstuck, got the tire replaced, got it turned around. Man, they were in a tight spot, and you're about to see how sketchy this really is and how it was. Like, I'm not terribly nervous, but if I was somebody that didn't have a ton of experience driving an RV or, you know, whatever, this could be, what we're about to experience could be like traumatizing. It's gonna be very, very tippy. This vehicle has a very high center of gravity. And when you get off camera on stuff like this, you're gonna feel all the stuff in the cabinet, the shelves. You want to just yard sale. The poor dude was freaking rock crawling while pulling his little car on the car behind it. Oh, and I'm sure he just hated that sound. Oh, that's the whole belly of the freaking RV. This is the easiest way to get this out. The rear axle sits way forward from the actual back of the vehicle. So anytime you take a turn, it's like a lever. So the back end of the vehicle swings way out. So on tight trails like this, I can make a turn that my truck would easily clear, but if there's a tree on that side of the road, the tail of the RV will hit it. Oof, just those noises, man. All I can say is Ron, the guy who passed away, hearing all these noises on his new camper, just so furious, because I know it just, every single one of those gets me. But the good news is we're driving, it's still mechanically sound. And now comes probably the much harder part. We're gonna go to Ron's final resting place where he passed away, where they stayed basically cuddled up in the back seat of a
of a little Kia Soul for days on end until they finally ran out of food and water, not knowing that their camper was quite literally just a short hike away. Sad stuff, man. So we just stopped for a second while we're waiting for the rest of the crew to get over here, because now we got to go down and pick up the Kia, which I'll explain in a minute is a little bit more of a sensitive experience. But while we're here waiting for them, assess some of the damage here. This is actually a newer RV. Gotta be 2012 or newer, maybe even newer. It looks decent. 19,000 miles. You can see as they started getting tired through the trees in here, things just started getting worse and worse, started scratching up everything, started ripping off the rear panel there. The rear bumper really is pretty much what saved them, to be honest with you, because that thing drags so much. You can see it actually drug the metal clean off. That's how it's supposed to look. Hopefully that's what those were for, because otherwise there's not much clearance under there and not much traction with these tires. You can see right here on the slide outs and the canopies, the awnings, they've all just been abused by branches. So again, we want to make sure that this vehicle is in tip-top shape, or as best we can, because this is what Beverly, Ron's wife, still has to drive back to Indiana in, because she's not able to fly. There's some damage right there where it's been kind of low riding, but overall, looks like it should be able to make it the rest of the trip. The inside, I'll be fairly sensitive because I don't want to show too much personal stuff, but I just want to show you guys how chaotic it was in here. Like, all of their stuff, I'm sure they didn't live like this. I'm sure just bouncing around just caused all that stuff to bounce everywhere. And they were using their atlas and guide and doing their best. Pulled the GPS coordinates here on Onyx for where the Kia Soul is parked. So as you can see, any of the purple is actual trails. So the Kia is right down here. So what we're gonna do is basically come back down here, connect onto this main road that we came in on. And then there looks like there's gonna be a little turn off. You know, unhooking the Kia from the camper, I'm sure it felt like they were driving forever because they were taking wrong turns and going here and going there. But like I said, it's literally, you know, less than half a mile away from where they were, where they had, you know, food and shelter and safety. So after getting stuck in the Kia, they didn't really have much of a choice other than to sit and wait and hope that, you know, they would see a passing car. And so for 9 days straight, they sat there honking SOS on the horn of their little Kia Soul. It finally ran out of fuel, and Ron, I think somewhere on maybe the 8th or 9th day, dehydration and, you know, just all the other things that kind of stacked on top of him, ended up taking his life. You know, Beverly and he were sitting in the back seat of this little Kia, just cuddled up, just living their last moments together. And when I first heard about the story, man, I just thought how tragic. This is the most tragic thing ever. But as I started talking with the family and the friends and different people involved, they're really focused on like the bright side of this, the happy side of it, which is, you know, if you think about it, what a way to go. You're on an adventure with your wife, cuddled up, you know, you just kind of die peacefully in her arms. Very traumatizing for Beverly, his wife, obviously, and probably the whole family. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm saying that there's some beauty in all this chaos. So the Kia, we believe, is down this road here. So just dig it. Another road down here. Car's right here, guys. Yeah, we got eyes on the car now. This is where Ron died. Oh gosh, dude, the freaking walker. Start seeing their stuff just scattered everywhere. I mean, dude, they were like literally just trying to survive. I guess the way they were getting water was she would come up, since he wasn't able to walk after a few days. She would get out with her walker, come up, scoop up one of her N95 masks with snow, and then melt it into a water bottle, and that's where they would get their water.
Shoe.
I mean, yeah, there's a shoe, a walker.
So our good friend Barb, who's here with her husband Dave, helping us recover these vehicles. We found these two sticks and made this cross so that we could mark where Ron's last adventure was. Because Ron obviously went on the ultimate adventure. He took his RV down a trail that he barely walked down. He took his key up this trail, got himself in a real pickle. But he went out with the love of his life and on a wild adventure. So this, Barb made for him. And we're going to stick it right there by a tree where his Kia was stuck, and so forever be known as Ron's spot.
Want to check it before power?
Not much. Is that thing dead?
The needle's not even moving on that gauge. Usually always on the same side you get out.
Hold on. So we got the car started, put some fuel in it, jumped the battery, started right up. Obviously they were living in here for a number of days. Obviously he passed away in here, so whatever happened then. So dealing with some potential biohazard type materials, which is why we're wearing the mask. So essentially what happened was search and rescue showed up the day after Ron died. So he had been in the car deceased for about 26 hours by the time search and rescue found him and was able to rescue them. They were able to airlift Beverly to Reno, and family members met her there. Fast forward to an email that I get on like April 6th or 7th from a guy named Jeff Mills. You know, I don't check all my emails, but if it says something about a recovery, I'll jump in there and look at it. And it says, hey, here's the story, here's what happened, here's what needs to be recovered, and here's the family's contact info if you're interested. You know, the story hit me pretty hard, obviously. So after reading it, I was like, yeah, we're in. I mean, there's closer recovery companies out there, but I guess one of the problems was they were having a hard time finding anybody that was willing to go up to that far of an area to do the recovery, and also there wasn't money from the family or anything like that was available to be able to pay somebody for some crazy expedition. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to jump in and say, yeah, you know, we're in Salt Lake, which is like a 12-hour drive away from where we're talking about. We might be able to pull this off using some resources, pulling from Reno and then from home and then flying out there.
Showing off. It's a really cool Jeep, actually.
Did it. Just about out of here. I think he's gonna be happy. For as sad as the situation was, I think this is This is working out pretty damn well. See this right here? This is luxury. We don't usually get this after recoveries. Normally after recoveries we go find like the nearest taco stand or whatever, but yeah.
Of you buying $300 worth of snacks or something.
That's daily occurrence. That's like literally on a daily occurrence. It's like the nearest gas station, because we're always in these podunk towns with nothing but one gas station, right. And I get a little carried away. But right now we're on the side of the trail, and she's literally cooking meatball sandwiches out of the back of her Jeep. Like this is gonna be, I feel like it's gonna be an $80 sandwich, and I'd pay $100. Yeah, no, this is amazing. So we got the vehicles out, RV's out, running good. All the tires are good. It's actually running great. The Kia is on the trailer. That's running good. For right now, we're just kind of regrouping, eating up, and heading back to the airport. We're about an hour away from Tonopah right now, and I think from there, it's just making it over to Reno. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. A successful recovery, and the sun hasn't even gone down yet. That's pretty amazing. And it's amazing because we had an amazing group of people. This was like a logistical miracle. The fact that we were able to fly into this giant airfield here in the middle of nowhere, but that put us much closer to the recovery. And then we had Josh, who works for us, obviously, gather his whole gang of people from Reno. Apparently, if you get in trouble in Reno, just call him, because he had Dave and Barb and meatball sandwiches and Jared and Chris, the guy who owns this truck, just like literally just everybody just opened up the floodgates of help to help us get the RV and the Kia and the little car dolly off the mountain. And as you can see, everything is successfully down. RV's running good. The Kia is running fine. We just got it on the trailer just because it's easier to do than the car dolly, and the car dolly will be pulled back separately. From there, I believe the Kia is going to go to like a disaster like cleanup place to be able to kind of like sanitize and clean out all the funk that's in there. The RV is really not that bad of shape, just needs to be cleaned up, gone through, because remember Beverly, she has to travel back home to Indiana in that because she can't fly, so it's got to be perfect. So we gave her a full tank of fuel. Jared's going to be hot rod that baby home. Hey, she hauls, man. Yeah. She boogies. And then from there, me and the boys and Mike and pilots and the whole gang here have loaded up the pickup truck, as you can see, with, that's like a lot of tools. That's not just, when Mike's like, hey, how much weight are you bringing? I'm like, 100 pounds of tools. It's like 400 pounds of tools. But the Pilatus can handle it because it's an amazing aircraft. So with that said, thank you for joining us. Enjoy and stay tuned for the next one. Long story short, we put together this logistical, wizardry of Josh Thompson, our parts guy, been with us for a long time, good friend of mine. He's originally from Reno. So he called some friends in Reno, and they stepped up big time. A couple named Dave and Barb brought up their pickup truck along with a car hauler trailer. And then another friend of Josh's loaned us his truck, 6 spare tires, because we knew the RV had some tires that were bad, a bunch of tools. So we flew Josh out to Reno. He went up with his friends, and then they started driving south, which is where we then flew into with Mike Patey. Mike Patey and I have been doing a lot of business and a lot of cool stuff together lately. He does a lot of search and rescue. He does more of like the actual recovery of bodies and that type of thing, where we do more vehicle stuff. But he was excited, literally dropped everything he was doing, and said, let's meet tomorrow morning and we'll fly to Tonopah. So after I got the email from Jeff Mills, I obviously got super interested in figuring out how we could help. That soon put me in touch with a guy named Travis Peters. Travis is from Indiana. He is Ron and Beverly's nephew. So he's the one who I spoke with. He's the one who gave me all the details and said, if you guys can do this, it'd be amazing. So working with him, and then I believe one of Beverly's kids. I'm not 100% sure who all we worked with here, because there's a lot of different people, but basically the family helped us identify the coordinates. We jumped in the trucks, drove up these winding mountain roads, which started as just dirt roads, and then they turned to gravel roads, and then they started turning into like just kind of off-road trails. And then by the time we found that RV so deep up in those mountains, it was literally like a rock crawling trail. I don't know what GPS they were following or what was happening, but this was literally like, this is a terrain that would be hard in a Jeep and a UTV and stuff like that, just because it's steep. rocky, loose dirt, loose gravel, you know, winding in and out of trees, basically heading to the top of a mountain. But along the way, for me, I was experiencing like this huge, like empathetic moment where I was kind of feeling the distress that they might have been feeling along the way. Like, this road doesn't feel right, or that branch just about ripped off the top of the RV, or why are these rocks getting so close to the sides of the vehicle? Why are we bottoming out? And basically, it was kind of the point of no return. When you're driving an RV that big, that's only two-wheel drive, and you're pulling a little trailer behind you that doesn't back up very well, you don't have a ton of options to stop and, you know, turn around or back up. So I think he was just following the road to the point where he hoped that there was a big enough turnaround area, which he turned into, got stuck, and that's how they ended up having to jump in their little Kia and drive down the mountain. So ultimately, you know, after 7, 8, 9 days of very little food, very little water, you know, very poor ability to breathe at that altitude, according to the official report or the news reports, Ron did end up dying of dehydration. They ran out of water basically, and like I said, Beverly was there for 26 hours with him until search and rescue showed up. So that's another moment that I just, man, like thinking about that. And then when we got down to the car, when we finally found the Kia using GPS coordinates, it was just the most tragic thing I've ever seen. There was like a shoe, you can see some of like whatever little snack wrappers they had, and then right outside the car door was a walker. When I saw that walker, I almost lost it, because I pictured Beverly having to get out, use a walker, go up the hill, use basically a COVID mask, scoop it full of snow, walk back down, put that into a water bottle, and then defrost it and drink it. That's how they were getting their water. Like, that's just, it's a rough time. That was one of the biggest things that I experienced during this whole recovery. It wasn't a difficult recovery. I mean, logistically, it was a little challenging getting vehicles from here and there and flying in. But as far as pulling the vehicles out, it went pretty much according to plan. We used the Brodozer Yankum rope and only had to tug on the RV 2 or 3 times before we were able to get it completely out and turned around. And then we used the winch on Dave and Barb's Jeep to kind of just pull the Kia off the hillside. So very simple stuff as far as, you know, actual grunt and horsepower goes. I think ultimately bad directions, you know, bad GPS, whatever it was. And then I believe a mixture of, I don't know what time of day they were traveling, but it could have been getting later. And then the ground looked like it was wet. So they were definitely traveling through either rain or possible snow, but the trail was dry when we went to go recover them, but you could tell that it wasn't dry when they were driving through there. So that just was another factor that caused them to get stuck up there. Just crazy that for 9 days they would have to sit there and honk the horn and hope that somebody would drive by in such a remote rural area that nobody was in that area for, you know, those 9 days, or nobody heard them. I think the hardest part for me was seeing how close they were to their RV. The Kia from the RV, straight line distance, it couldn't have been more than half a mile. We were able to walk there in 10 minutes. So had they known, they just didn't know where they were in relation to the RV. So maybe even had they known, their health condition wouldn't allow them to get there. But it's so sad to see that dying of dehydration and starvation and stuff like that when you're half a mile away from something that could have saved your life. Obviously, it wasn't meant to go that way. This all happened for a reason. Beverly has told some beautiful stories to her family that I've heard bits and pieces of about, you know, Ron's final moments together. And I guess it turned into a really religious, really spiritual, really, I mean, hard to say good thing, but they're making the most of it. And they found a lot of beauty in this tragedy. So basically, once we got the vehicles off the mountain, we loaded them back up, and the RV and the Kia and the car dolly all got taken up to Reno, which is where Beverly was currently staying, because she needs the RV to be able to travel back to Indiana because she's not able to fly due to, you know, health reasons. Big shout out to Josh Thompson. Big shout out to Barb and Dave Eaton. Shout out also to Josh's buddy Jared, who came and helped. Those people jumped in and just didn't even ask questions. I mean, Barb was literally making us meatball sandwiches out of the back of her Jeep, which was amazing. So amazing crew there. On my side, super grateful for all my guys that, you know, the regular crew got together, and also for Mike Patey and Let Us Take This Plane, and the couple guys that came with him. Another shout out I want to give is to Jeff Mills for sending me the email, making me aware of the situation. He and his wife actually drove up and met us in Tonopah, so they came up and helped us, brought their truck, and were a huge help. And they had no connection to the family. They didn't know who they were. Jeff just saw the story on the news and he wanted to help. So I'm glad he reached out. And then he also put his money where his mouth was and showed up, drove like 9 hours to me doesn't help us out. It was a big group effort, but ultimately we were able to get the RV off the mountain and be able to just relieve a little bit of the stress that family had been experiencing, and they were extremely grateful, and I think we've made friends for life with them for now. So like I said, one of our most bittersweet but also most gratifying recoveries. There is a takeaway here from this vlog. This is something that we can all actually kind of learn from, and this is something that the family was actually hoping that I would communicate, is just preparation, like being fully prepared. Even if you don't think you need something, grab it just to be safe, especially when you're going out in the wild camping or an RV trip or hiking or whatever. If you grab one water bottle, grab two. You know, you can never be too prepared, and also don't underestimate nature. You know, it'll bite you really quick. You can end up getting stuck. I've got some of our trucks stuck in situations where I would never expected to get stuck before, but if you aren't smart with the weather and you go anyways, that can come back and bite you. So definitely some good lessons to learn. Sounds like common sense to a lot of us, but some people need to hear it, and I think we all just need to be reminded of it. So